Hi, welcome to the Wait Here Please podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Sophia.
And I'm Mariah.
And this is episode number 1. How exciting.
It's very exciting. I didn't think we would get here after all of our troubles.
This has been a long time in the making.
We've been talking about this for months.
Oh, I thought you were going to make one of those jokes like, it's been a year since we started last year, but never. I know.
I have been. I have.
But we decided to do this podcast for a few reasons. I feel like because of what's going on in America right now, it's like the perfect time to do a podcast, especially with the kind of topics we want to talk about. Mariah and I met in our master's program. We are both social workers. We do not live in the same state, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So that's why we're not together.
Maybe one day. That's the plan.
Day. But we felt like we both had a lot of different experiences, not only from being in social work school, but also because of our life experiences. Mariah, do you want to tell a little bit about yourself and what we should know?
Oh boy. So, I come from the history of, I'm a U.S. Air Force veteran, so female veteran lifestyle, which is, even though it accepts everybody, very male dominated, male centric, lots of experiences with that. Single parent household for half of my childhood. And then, getting out of the military and going through a divorce and then becoming a mom after being told for years I couldn't be a mom because I have PCOS, or that I couldn't be a mom naturally, that my partner and I, we were looking at like adoption or IVF and like going down that route. And then surprise, we get pregnant, go through that whole journey, obviously 1,000 miles away from my family, get pregnant again. And here we are dealing with still postpartum stuff, not having the village that people talk about, at least close by. I have a village, but so thankful for technology, cell phones, FaceTime, all of that kind of stuff to keep in touch. And that's, a little bit about me and my history as we go through this.
Yeah. And my history is that I am Spanish. I'm Latina. I'm Puerto Rican, Dominican. We have a bunch of illnesses, unfortunately. But the reason I'm very open about all of the medical issues I have, because I think that one, women are constantly either misdiagnosed or not listened to and then kind of ignored, and women suffer. I also acknowledge that trans men as well as people with uteruses, so I do want to have inclusive language also with that. But I'll mainly say women, but just want to say I do include y'all. But I think the big thing too is I was bedridden for over a year, and it took over 6 months almost for them to really figure out what was going on. And I ended up being diagnosed with pelvic floor dysfunction, vaginismus, vulvodynia. And I think what's very interesting about Mariah and I is that because we don't live in the same state, the healthcare is very different. And learning about how my healthcare providers have interacted with me and how her healthcare providers have interacted with her has really made this experience really fascinating, because some of the things that I've learned, Mariah's doctors never told her about, or vice versa.
I've been going to her for like, is this normal? How do I help with this? Especially after, the pregnancy stuff of how do I just get my body back in line? Because, doctors don't quite talk to about it. And now, thankfully, more people are coming out and talking about women's health and having that. I'm like, we haven't been the primary resource for our own health.
Right, exactly. And so that's kind of where our main focus is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to talk about a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about, well, we live in America. We will be talking about the political climate because, unfortunately, with the new administration, it does affect women's health,
Mm-hmm.
and many other things. I mean, it is January 10th. This is the third or fourth day of the California wildfires. It is truly, like, when you look at the pictures, it truly is apocalyptic, in my opinion.
Yeah, it is. And, I think you mentioned earlier this week to me that, which I didn't know, you do a lot of the research, is that they took money away from the fire department and gave it to the police department. And that just, especially in a state that has so many wildfires, what, tell me the logic behind that one.
Right, exactly. Obviously, with everything that happened, there's going to be severe repercussions. What would have happened if there was no budget cuts? And I think that with this next administration, they don't believe in climate change. But this is very clear that this is climate change. And I think it's really important that we do acknowledge that. And we acknowledge kind of how climate change also impacts women's health as well. Everything is kind of connected.
Yeah, I agree. And just with everything going on, that's one of the main reasons that we've been talking about this podcast for so long. We didn't know who was going to be the president elect. We didn't know all of this. We just knew who was running, and whether you're pro Donald Trump, pro Harris, somewhere in the middle, this election caused distraught for so many different people, families, communities, countries at this point, that I think it's time that people start talking about it and being more aware and realizing that it's more than just the price of eggs. It's a lot more.
Yeah, exactly. And for me personally, this political season was very challenging. I was very conflicted with Biden as the Democratic nominee and then Harris becoming the Democratic nominee because of the genocide that is currently happening in Gaza. It's been over a year that the United States is currently funding with our taxpayer dollars. And I really struggled when Kamala did not separate herself from Biden. And I feel like for years we've always heard, well, we have to vote for the lesser of two evils. And it's like, do we really? Like, other countries have more than two parties.
And we do have more, but just not taking that seriously, I guess. Is that the even right word? People don't pay attention to the other parties, unfortunately.
Yeah, I didn't even know that a Green Party existed until maybe even 2016.
Okay.
Like, that's
Yeah.
wild. I don't know. When did you find out about the Green Party?
I remember briefly in like high school learning about all the different parties, but really it comes down to Republican, Democrat, Independent when you go to register to vote, even.
Right.
So, and a lot of the states I know, even if you're in Independent, you can't vote in the primaries. Like, you have to vote one party. You have to vote kind of that route. So,
Yeah, I don't think that's fair. So I understand, like, that I am not the only one that had trouble with the Democratic Party. I know you struggled as well with the Democratic Party as well and kind of their campaign.
yeah, I did. And I feel like they tried to play the same game that President-elect Trump played of, bashing and making fun of, and the vibes. And don't get me wrong, some of the vibes were great, like the music and everything that goes along with it, or Grandpa Waltz or anything like that. Like, like the vibes were good, but there wasn't enough education about tariffs, about policies, about what a vice president actually does for us to be like, oh,
Yeah.
but she's been in office for 4 years and hasn't done anything. Like, that's kind of not her role. Like, she should have educated more so that people actually understood what was being talked about.
Yeah, I know tariffs especially were a big deal.
Yeah.
And why a lot of people, especially in southern states, voted for Trump because they assumed other countries would pay. And it's like, no, it's not. And that's why tariffs don't work.
Yeah. Because it comes back on the consumer. Yeah, the tariffs might make the companies pay more, but they're going to try to get their money back as much as possible by increasing the price of their goods. That's how that works.
And I remember when Trump became the president-elect, and there was this story of this like small Pennsylvania company that had to tell all of their employees that they were not going to do Christmas bonuses because they had to prepare for the new presidency. And like literally everyone was like, what are you talking about? Why? What do you mean? We're relying on these Christmas bonuses, and like these are the repercussions now. And one of the big things is that TikTok, one of the trends was fuck around and find out.
And we're in the find out stage of it all, and he's not even a resident yet. Between the wars that he might be getting us into, between the companies that have already laid people off in preparation, all of this, like we're starting to see the FAFO, talking about like Project 2025, talking about House Bill 7, I believe is what it is, of all these changes. People are like, oh no, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. They're trying now, and he's not even president.
Exactly. And also, like, I think what people also need to realize is local elections are really important because even though he's not elected, look what's happening in schools. Throughout the entire Biden presidency, schools were banning books or threatening to fire librarians. So things that are just what you would see in Nazi Germany, to be honest.
Yeah. And the beginning of it, of like that control of the, I am the government. And I mean, you're seeing it. Yeah. So much.
And that's why, like, when Kamala Harris did not do the psycho ed, it proved why education is so important. It proves why books are so important and why the Republican Party are trying to ban them, because they know education is power through and through. And I truly think that is possibly why women's health has not been focused on so much, because they're like, well, if we suppress the information or if we don't do research or studies, then we don't really need to do anything. Because let's be real, if men were diagnosed with PCOS or endometriosis, there would have already been a cure. There would be a cure. You would be able to find out without having surgery, without having some like traumatizing ultrasounds.
You get pain management before you had to get any kind of surgery or procedure done. It's not, they would get more than Tylenol before they got an IUD placed.
Gosh.
They would get more than, exactly, a 6-week checkup after pushing a 9-pound baby out of them.
Yeah, and be like, oh, you're fine. You're good. You're all patched up.
You can have sex now. You're good. Okay, cool. Thanks. Because that's the first thing on my mind.
Not like a screaming child right in my ear. No.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Like, you look at women's health history, speaking of like the DSM-5, there's many diagnoses, whether you're a female, woman, African American, anything like that, where these statistics for these diagnoses are misconstrued. They are not 100% because a lot of these diagnoses are based around males and white males and how they present with these disorders. And you go down that path, tampons and pads and how they weren't ever really tested with blood. Make that make sense.
Yeah, period blood was not what they used till like 2017, 2018, something like
until
wild like
recently.
that.
Yeah, it's just wild how our health up until this point hasn't been taken seriously. And that's one thing I will give to President Trump is that because of the way he's acted, because of the things that he has said and that he has done, that people are speaking out more, whether they're racist bigots or advocating. People are speaking out more. And it's kind of, the Me Too movement, all of this stuff has been talked about so much more since his presidency.
Mm.
And, I think it brings me back to when I was growing up, my mom had a bumper sticker on her car that said, "Well-behaved women rarely make history." And her boyfriend at the time asked her to take it off. And and she did. I'm like, okay, thinking back to it, I'm like, oh, okay. Like she was saying something back then, and now it's our time to not be well-behaved women and not raise well-behaved women.
Yeah. No, yeah, 100%. That's actually one of my favorite quotes. That's one of my favorite quotes because what well-behaved woman does anything? Because if you think about all of the women throughout history that have done something, the woman that immediately came to my mind when you were talking was Harriet Tubman.
Yeah.
That she, for a second, is like hands down one of the biggest badasses. She should already be on the $20 bill. Like what? Like remember when that was like like the big campaign?
Oh my gosh!
Like come on, put Harriet on that $20 bill.
Yeah.
But she put everything on the line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And she saved so many lives. So many lives. And personally, I have such a hard time with what's happening because it's like, I wish this could be avoided, or I wish we had prepared more, or I don't know. Like, for example, like, I wish we'd codified Roe v. Wade when Obama was president. Like, I don't know. I wish that if we could go back in time, obviously,
Only.
things would be done differently. But I think the big thing is that it's our time to stand up,
Unite together.
People. Yep. Make change in the way we could. And my personal goal is to tell people that they're not alone. But I also think it's important to educate men as well, because men need to start understanding and respecting the amount of trial and tribulations their partners are going through. And my personal goal is to educate, because I think that they may not have been taught. I don't know. That's my personal goal. I don't know about you.
No, and I think, we're very similar with that goal, is to like educate, teach how to advocate. And as we're going through these next few years, as we're dealing with whatever comes ahead, of like being there for each other and creating the safe space, and also talking about like ways we can help and take care of ourselves, because it's going to be an exhausting.
Yeah, I think that's also really important. And another thing that I'm learning is not a lot of people are getting their news from cable TV. I think that, especially with what happened with Morning Joe Scarborough, and because of Brzezinski for like all 4 years, they've been saying how Trump is a fascist, how Trump is a terrible person. And then the moment he gets elected, let's bend the knee. And it's like, okay. So MSNBC has lost a lot of coverage. I think Fox is the big one.
And I think you think about like our generation and all the stuff that we've gone through, 9/11, the wars, all the school shootings, everything that, even just through COVID. I know COVID is when I'm like, all right, no more news station in this house because it's just always something. So I think people are stepping away from that constant negativity of news and they're getting their news information off of social media resources because it's like, okay, fun, 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 good to catch up, seeing all the good stuff. And oh, here's a little gloom and doom. Now I can keep kind of scroll on. And that's it's that more instant stuff.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's why I was concerned a little bit when they said they were going to ban TikTok. And I'm sorry, let's be real. Like, they were going to ban TikTok because Palestinians were talking about what's happening in Gaza. Like, let's be 100% real. That's the reason. We were finding out what Israel was actually doing to the Palestinians.
Yes.
I don't think they're going to ban TikTok.
We'll see what happens. I still have hope that things aren't going to happen on January 21st. So
I know.
We'll see what happens.
The only reason I don't is because Trump literally asked the I was going to say superintendent. What are they called?
Supreme Court. Is that the super?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's like the biggest brain fart. But that the Supreme Court, he asked the Supreme Court, like, let's hold off. Yeah. And they listened because, hello, most of them bend their knee. So I feel like because of that, they're not going to. I feel like they're really not. I hope at least. And I know Lemonade. Okay, honestly, that's a really clever name. Did you see that? It's like LEMN, lemon, and then the number 8. But I'm guessing you say it like lemonade.
No, I
don't know. I thought that was kind of clever.
See, I haven't even heard of any of this.
What? They've been promoting it on TikTok. It was like made by TikTok.
See, I told you. Yeah, I'm not a tech person. I may be youngish, but I'm definitely an old person. I don't do technology that well. I warned you about this.
That is an understatement because let's be real. Mariah, when was the last time you updated your laptop?
Last night. Thank you.
How long has it been?
I bought a computer in 2019.
Yeah. She was on what Catalina?
Catalina.
I don't even think I don't think Apple even remembers Catalina.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't update. I thought it automatically updated. Apparently,
It didn't listen. It didn't listen to that button,
apparently. It did not automatically update. So it took us, like 2 hours to update my computer last night?
Yeah, that was a ride. But, like, these are the kind of things, like, even though it's, like, small, saying, like, oh, lemonade might be a thing, these are, like, the little tidbits we want to share because we think it's important. Also, it's very clear Brian also needs to know these things, too.
Yes. Yes, I do. It's one of those things that, I think even with, like, the name of this podcast, Wait Here, Please, like, it's not just about, the waiting room of, like, all right, you drive 20 minutes and then just wait and wait and wait to hear from a doctor, because we all know what the OBGYN is like, if not any other doctor, too, of, like, we're here for 20 minutes. I see you for 2 minutes. Thanks, Ted, bye. But that's from life, too. Like, we're all just kind of waiting.
We're trying to see what's going on.
Yeah.
We're trying to be like mentally and physically preparing for what's next to come.
Exactly.
But yeah, exactly. I hope that people enjoy our podcast. Yes. I don't know. I'm a little nervous about this journey. Are you?
Me too. Especially, I mean, I know there's going to be people that hate us that make bad comments. Trust me, I get told almost daily about, how people don't like me because, being a therapist, people don't like going to a therapist. You get kind of ghosted as a therapist
But
also.
please go to therapists.
Please.
Please go to therapy.
We all
Please,
need it.
please.
It's fine. Just go talk to a therapist. We're good. We're not bad people.
Please, I promise.
But yeah, like I'm nervous to see like the negative comments. Please, if there's comments about like any constructive criticism, let us know. I think I'm mostly nervous about, putting my face out there, being vulnerable with people because that's scary in itself. And then, yeah, I am nervous.
Yeah.
But I'm
Is there
excited.
anything I was gonna say, like, what are you excited about? Let's do positives now.
We're focusing on the positives. I'm excited about just chatting with my best friend about the stuff that we already chat back and forth about.
We talk 24/7, but yeah.
We do. And we're on opposite schedules because I wake up really early with the 2 kids and she's more up late at night.
3 a.m. Mariah will be getting some. That's why it was nice when the little one was waking up in the middle of the night, so you would like receive like some text messages from me.
Yes.
Now they don't wake up so early.
Thankfully. Still, but it's like that kind of. There's still some days, that teething stage of I just exhaustion all around. But, chatting with you and, finding and our little quirks and little humors here and there. I think the big thing is people like we are very similar minded. We come with different experiences and I'm excited to share those experiences and even some banter because, you are a little more political than I am.
Yes.
And
I am trying to convince Mariah to become a socialist.
Yeah. So
it will happen one day, I promise.
I don't know about that. So there's that banter back and forth, and I'm excited to have that.
Right.
And others see it too, because we're not coming in it like you need to do all of this. No, we're just coming in it with a light heart.
Yeah. And like the thing is, Mariah and I disagree on things.
Yeah.
Like, for example, guns. Mariah is a gun owner. I am not.
Yes.
Guns scare me, personally. But I have no issues with gun owners. I have issues with the lack of background checks and just getting a gun.
Yeah.
That's what I have issues with. But for gun owners, I have no issue with that. But that's like one example I can give that we're different on.
Yeah. And it's, and there's times that I do agree with her of like, it is easy to access a gun. I have all my right paperwork and legally do it. But the fact that it could take me less than 3 hours and I can be walking out of a store with a gun is truly mind-blowing to me. We also have different likes in sports. So you might, especially depending on who's coming up in the Super Bowl, we might be bickering a little bit there.
Also,
Go Bills.
But also baseball season is coming up and I'm a Yankees fan and she is a Red Sox fan. And one day I will convert her to a Yankees fan because Yankees are so much better than the Red Sox. And I will forever say that.
Never
say that. But yeah, no, I agree. I think I'm excited because I not only talk to you, obviously, but I'm excited because I don't want people to feel alone. I think that's like the biggest thing. Like when I was sick and in bed, having that spoony community on Instagram and TikTok was so vital. Yeah. Because it made me feel like I was not crazy. But on top of that, like it validated my feelings, it validated my concerns. Yeah. But I also learned things. Like I would bring what I learned from TikTok and Instagram to my doctors. That should not be a thing, but it is.
It shouldn't be. And yeah,
yeah.
And that goes back to like, I think I mentioned it earlier, like it takes a village to raise kids, but it also takes a village just to get through this life and to get through everything. And having that village is so important because a lot of those times when you are in the bad spots, when your anxiety is high, when you're just worried about something, it's hard to be like, no, I'm not the first person. I'm the first person. No one knows what I feel like, all this other stuff. But in reality, 99% of the time, somebody else has also experienced what you've experienced. It's obviously not the same, but
Right.
similar.
Right, exactly. But I also think it's helpful that we have different lives. Like, I'm not a mom. I'm a cat mom. I have a cat, but I am not a mom.
Yeah.
So how I go through life is completely different than how you go through life.
Yeah.
Like, you tell me some of the things that you have to do or you know of, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. And same with, you, like I've said so many times of like, I know you do your research. I know you know all of this. Help me. Tell me how to make it so I don't pee when I sneeze. Putting my vulnerabilities out there because that's post-pregnancy right there. If not just being a woman sometimes, like, help me. And she knows all of this. She sends me all the links and all the posts and
We kind of just want to be like the best friends in your ears kind of
yeah.
thing. It's kind of like just having one of your voice messages just play
Yeah.
and just like, oh, okay, I can just throw them on and pretend I'm just listening to a voice message of one of my friends. That's
Yeah.
like what the goal is, just with a lot of swearing on my side. Just like,
Yeah. Same. We've actually been really good this time of not swearing.
I know. When you said FAFO, I'm like, you mean fuck around to find out? Yeah. Let's go.
Let's go.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my goodness.
I'm excited for this journey, and
Too.
I'm excited for you all to join us.
Mm-hmm.
And I will be editing this. I'm gonna be putting it everywhere. We're gonna be on Spotify. We're gonna be on Apple. Is it Apple Music or just Apple? I don't know. That
no
one.
idea.
We're gonna do it on YouTube,
Yes.
TikTok, Instagram. We're gonna be Blue Sky, X. I will call it Twitter though. It will forever be Twitter. Just saying.
Look at those websites. Send us a message of like, can you talk about this? Or, we're looking at once we get enough questions, like a Q&A kind of thing, like doing stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So send us messages. Check us out.
We could do like a slumber party. Like we can wear our PJs and everything.
I'm here for it.
This is our first episode. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for listening, watching, supporting. Wait here, please. We'll be back. We're still trying to figure out our scheduling, so bear with us while we're trying to figure that out. But overall, thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes, we're excited.
Bye, everyone. Hi, everyone. It is January 15th, and I'm just editing the podcast, but I want to come in and announce that there has officially been a ceasefire deal with Hamas and Israel. I just wanted to come in and add that tidbit.